Just a movie, a bowl of popcorn, and two people trying not to feel the quiet inside the house. But even before the sun went down, something in the air felt different, like a storm waiting behind clear skies. Clara stood in the kitchen, staring at the clock above the stove. Daniel had promised he would be home by 6. He had said it that morning while tying his tie, pressing a quick kiss to her cheek without really looking at her. Tonight, no excuses, he had added. She had smiled, wanting to believe him. The house smelled of roasted chicken and fresh bread. She had cooked his favorite meal. Not because she had to, but because she missed the way he used to smile when he tasted something she made in the early years of their marriage. Dinner had been their time. Laugh about small mistakes at work and sometimes even plan trips they never took. Those nights felt warm and steady. Now, most evenings felt like waiting rooms. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Her stomach tightened anyway. No, I love you. Just a message sent quickly, like a task checked off a list. She read it twice, then locked. The screen, the kitchen, suddenly felt too big. The food on the stove looked pointless. From the hallway, she heard footsteps. Ethan appeared at the doorway, tall and quiet, his dark hair slightly messy as always. At 19, he had grown into his father's height, but his eyes were softer, kinder. He's not coming, is he? Ethan asked. Clara tried to smile. Work. Again. Ethan nodded, not surprised. There was something protective in his gaze, something that made her feel both comforted and uneasy. You made all this? He asked. I thought we'd have dinner together. There was a pause. She looked at him, really looked at him. When had he become so calm, so steady? He had been 13, standing behind Daniel with crossed arms, eyes full of doubt. She had tried too hard that day, smiling too much, offering cookies. He refused. She never forced it. She asked about his homework, drove him to soccer practice, listened when he talked about music. A quiet thank you when she showed up to his school event. Now, he wasn't a child anymore. He was a young man with dreams, opinions, and a heart that noticed things. They sat at the dining table together. The chairs meant for 3 felt heavier than usual. Just real. This is really good, he said after the first bite. She laughed softly. You say that every time. Because it's true every time. They ate in comfortable silence. But beneath that comfort was something else, an awareness. The empty seat at the head of the table felt like a reminder of something fading. After dinner, Clara began clearing the plates. Just skin touching skin for a second too long. She pulled her hand back first. Sorry, she said quickly. It's fine, he replied, but his voice had changed, slightly lower, slightly slower. She told herself she was imagining it. When the kitchen was clean, they stood there awkwardly, unsure of what to do next. The evening stretched ahead, wide and empty. We could watch something, Ethan suggested. You always say we never do movie nights anymore. Clara hesitated. Back when things felt balanced. Back when Daniel would sit between them, making jokes during serious scenes. But those nights had become rare. Just us, she asked. Ethan shrugged. Why not? We're both home. There was nothing wrong with the idea. Still, her heart beat. Clara dimmed the lights while Ethan scrolled through streaming options. He chose an old romantic drama neither of them had seen. She almost laughed at the choice. You picked this, she teased. What? I like good stories. She settled onto one end of the couch, tucking her legs beneath her. Ethan sat on the other side, leaving a polite space between them. The movie began. At first she focused on the screen. The story was about a couple drifting apart, struggling to find their way back to each other. Clara felt the irony immediately. She shifted, slightly uncomfortable on screen. The wife tried to talk to her husband, but he kept turning away, distracted by work, by calls, by anything that wasn't her. Clara swallowed. Beside her, Ethan was quiet. Too quiet. She could feel his presence without looking at him. The warmth of his body, the steady rhythm of his breathing. The room felt smaller than usual. Halfway through the film, a scene played where The female character sat alone at a dinner table, staring at an empty chair. Clara's chest tightened. It was almost too familiar. She let out a soft laugh to hide the feeling. "That's dramatic," she said lightly. Ethan didn't laugh. "You don't think so?" she asked, glancing at him. He was looking at her, not the screen. "For some people, it's real," he said. Her breath caught for a second. She turned back to the television quickly. The scene changed, but her focus didn't return. Why was she reacting this way? It was just a movie, just a quiet night at home. Yet the house felt charged, like something invisible was shifting. A few minutes later, Clara reached for the popcorn bowl at the same time Ethan did. Their fingers touched again. This time neither pulled away immediately. It was only a heartbeat, but it felt longer. She felt heat rise to her cheeks. She stood up abruptly. "I'll make more tea." In the kitchen, she gripped the counter and took a slow breath. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She hadn't done anything wrong. So why did her pulse race like she had? Because she felt seen. That was the truth she didn't want to admit. Ethan noticed when she was sad. He noticed when she dressed nicely. And Daniel didn't comment. He noticed the silence at dinner. He noticed everything. And Daniel didn't. She poured hot water into 2 cups and stared at the steam rising. She loved her husband. She had built a life with him. But love without attention slowly turns into loneliness. When she returned to the living room, Ethan muted the movie. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," she replied too quickly, then softer, "just tired." He nodded but didn't press. Was another thing about him? He never forced answers. They watched the rest of the movie in silence. The couple on screen finally confessed their fears, their mistakes, their longing. They promised to fight for each other instead of drifting apart. Clara felt tears gather in her eyes. Beside her, Ethan shifted slightly closer. Not enough to cross a line, just enough that she felt it. And for the first time in years, she felt warmth that wasn't forced. The credits began to roll. The room filled with soft music from the television. Neither of them moved. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the windows. Inside, the silence felt heavy but alive. Clara finally stood up. "It's late," she said quietly. Ethan nodded. He turned off the TV and stood as well. For a second, they faced each other in the dim light. "Good night, Clara," he said. He rarely used her name. The sound of it now felt different. Not childish, not distant. "Good night, Ethan." He walked down the hallway toward his room. She remained standing in the living room, her heart unsettled. This was not about romance. Not about anything forbidden. It was about something more dangerous, emotional closeness born from shared loneliness. She looked at the empty seat on the couch where Daniel usually sat. A simple movie night. That's all it was supposed to be. But as Clara turned off the lights and headed to her bedroom alone, she knew something had quietly changed, and she wasn't sure she could undo it. The movie had ended, but the feeling it left behind did not fade. The next morning the house felt different, as if the walls had heard something they were not meant to hear. Clara woke early, though she had barely slept. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every glance, every word, every second of silence from the night before. Nothing had happened. That was the truth. Yet something had shifted, and she could not ignore it. Daniel had already left. For work, his side of the bed was cold. He had not woken her. He had not tried. Clara got up slowly and wrapped herself in a light robe. The mirror showed tired eyes and a face full of thoughts she could not explain. She walked to the kitchen, hoping coffee would clear her mind. Ethan was already there. He stood by the counter, pouring orange juice into a glass. Sunlight came through the window and fell across his face. He looked calm, but when he saw her, something flickered in his expression. Not guilt, not shame, just awareness. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied. For a second, neither moved. The memory of the couch, the closeness, the way he had looked at her, it all hovered between them. Dad left early. Ethan said, I know he does. That the words came out sharper than she intended. She turned away to reach for a mug, but her hand trembled slightly. She hoped he did not notice. They sat at the small kitchen table facing each other. The space felt smaller than usual. She tried to speak about normal things, college applications, weekend plans. Safe? You hear back from the music program? She asked. Not yet. Soon, she nodded. You'll get in? You sound sure. I am. He smiled faintly. You always believe in me. That way he said it made her chest tighten. She had believed in him since he was a shy boy hiding behind headphones. She had watched him grow, seen his confidence build, seen the sadness in his eyes when his father missed another school performance. She had filled in those empty spaces without realizing it. Ethan leaned back slightly. About last night. Heart jumped. It was just a movie, she said quickly. I know, he replied. I just meant it was nice. Nice, such a simple word, but it held weight. Yes, she said softly. It was. They fell silent again. Clara forced herself to finish her coffee and stand up. I have errands to run, okay? As she walked out of the kitchen, she felt his eyes on her back. Not in a way that felt wrong. In a way that felt searching. The day passed in a blur. She drove to the store, walked through aisles without really seeing anything, and returned home, feeling restless. The house was quiet. Too quiet in the afternoon, she found Ethan in the living room, guitar in hand. Soft music filled the space. He didn't notice her at first. His head was down, fingers moving over the strings with focus and emotion. She stood there, listening. The melody was slow and full of feeling, carried something heavy and tender at the same time. When he finally looked up and saw her, he stopped. Abruptly. Sorry, he said. Did I bother you? No, she replied. It's beautiful. He hesitated. I wrote it for someone, she asked. Before she could stop herself, he looked at her in a way that made her breath catch. Maybe the air felt charged again. She stepped further into the room, trying to stay calm. You're talented, she said. You should share that more. I don't like sharing everything. Why not? Some things feel too personal. She swallowed. That's understandable. He placed the guitar down gently. Clara, can I ask you something? Her pulse quickened. What? Are you happy? The question hit harder than she expected. She opened her mouth to answer automatically. To say yes, of course, everything is fine. But the word would not come. That's not really your concern, she said instead, just trying to keep her tone light. Maybe not, he admitted, but I care. There it was, simple, honest, dangerous. She crossed her arms more to protect herself than to block him. You don't have to worry about me. I know I don't have to, he said quietly. I want to. Silence filled the room again. Her heart felt too loud in her chest. She could not remember the last time someone had said they wanted to worry about her. You're young, she said softly. You should focus on your own life. He took a step closer, not close enough to touch, just close enough to make the distance noticeable. I am, he replied. But that doesn't mean I don't see what's happening here. Her voice dropped. And what do you think is happening? I think you're lonely. The truth landed between them like something fragile. She felt exposed. That's not your responsibility, she whispered. I know, he repeated, but it doesn't change how I feel. The words echoed in her mind. How I feel. She stepped back. Ethan. He stopped immediately, reading the shift in her tone. I'm sorry, he said quickly. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. Didn't? She replied, though she wasn't sure that was true. It's just complicated. He nodded slowly. Because of Dad. Yes, she said firmly. Because of your father. Because this is a family. Because there are lines. He looked down at the floor, jaw tight. I would never disrespect you. I know, and I would never hurt him. I know that too. But feelings did not disappear just because they were wrong. The tension stayed with them through the evening. They moved around each other carefully, like dancers trying not to step on the wrong foot. At dinner, they avoided heavy topics. At one point, their laughter returned briefly, and the normal rhythm of their connection felt almost safe again. Yet, under that surface, something deeper moved quietly. Later that night, a storm began outside. Rain hit the windows in steady waves. Thunder rolled in the distance. The power flickered once, then went out completely. The house fell into darkness. Clara gasped softly. "Great." Ethan grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. The small beam of light cut through the dark. "It's just the storm," he said. "I know. I just hate the dark." He moved closer without thinking. The light illuminated her face. She looked younger in that glow, softer. "Come on," he said. "We'll light candles." They've worked together in the kitchen, searching drawers for matches. The closeness felt unavoidable now, natural in the small space. Their shoulders brushed, their hands met again. This time neither reacted sharply. When the candles were lit, the house felt warmer, almost intimate. Shadows danced on the walls. The storm outside grew louder. They ended up sitting on the living room floor, backs against the couch, candles flickering around them. "This feels like a scene from a movie," Ethan said lightly. She laughed. "Don't start," he grew serious. "I'm not trying to cause trouble, I know. I just don't want to pretend I don't feel anything." Her heart pounded. "You're confusing comfort with something else." "Am I?" She turned to face him fully now. "Yes." He searched her eyes. "Then tell me you don't feel it too." The words hit deep. She could lie. She could protect everything with one simple denial. But her silence said enough. The storm roared outside. Inside, the space between them felt thinner than ever. "Ethan," she whispered, "this can't go anywhere." "Not asking it to," he said quickly. "I just needed to know I wasn't imagining it." She closed her eyes for a moment. "You weren't." The confession felt both freeing and terrifying. He let out a slow breath, as if he had been holding it all day. "Okay, okay," she repeated. "Okay," he said again, softer. "Then we know, and we choose what to do with it." She looked at him carefully. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't pushing. He was simply honest. "And what do we do?" she asked. "We don't cross any lines," he replied. "We respect what this is, and what is it?" He thought for a second. Two people who feel seen by each other. The simplicity of his answer almost made her cry. The power came back suddenly. Lights flickered on. The normal world returned. They both blinked, adjusting to the brightness. Clara stood slowly. "It's late." "Yeah." They looked at each other one last time before heading to their rooms. Nothing had happened, yet everything had. Changed off because now the feeling was no longer silent. It had been spoken, acknowledged, named. And once something is named, it becomes harder to ignore.